have you been up to much watching wise?
Yeah, done a wee bit. It's not been a week where I've been out and about doing an awful lot of stuff. With you know how I said, was it last weekend we were looking for somebody to do our ceiling with plastering? Yeah, well, we've got somebody and he's coming next weekend to do it. It's going to take 2 days to get it all fixed and get. So I was like kind of hanging about waiting for tradesmen to come during the week and everything. So it's just like a perfect time to watch stuff. So I watched a film called Witness for the Prosecution, which is an old 1950s film. It's on BBC 4 and it'll be on iPlayer as well because they're doing a season of older films. It's like a Thursday night on BBC 4. They're showing all these old films. They've done the usual ones like Casablanca and things like that, but there's a whole range of them. And this one is Charles Laughton as an elderly barrister who has, against the wishes of his doctor, has come back to work after an illness and he's supposed to take it easy, but the first case he takes on is a murder case where a young man, Tyrone Power, has been accused of murdering an older lady who he had befriended in order to, not by nefarious means, so he says, get money from her to help with a business idea that he had. It was like a double whisk or something. It was really stupid. It was a real sort of MacGuffin kind of thing, you know, because you can see it. You see him working at one point. And it's all about the trial, leading up to the trial and the trial itself. And the guy's wife is Greta Garbo.
Oh, and okay.
I know, bizarre, and she looks stunning. This is like 1952, 53, and she looks absolutely stunning.
She always does, yeah.
Yeah, and it's all about how is she involved in this, and she doesn't seem to be on the side of her husband and all that. And a wife can be compelled to incriminate her husband, testify. Even in, like, I thought that would maybe just be in the US, but it's in the UK as well, apparently, or it was then. And it's just this sort of intrigue, this story about it, and it's really good. It's a cracking movie, some really cracking performances in it, especially Charles Laughton. He's just amazing because he's this grumpy old barrister who just wants to smoke cigars, and there's a nurse that wants to take care of him and kind of harangue him all the time and things like that. And just, it's just spot on. Should give it a go if you get a chance.
Definitely. I'll need to look out for what's on BBC 4 on a Thursday night then if they're running all these oldie goldie ones, because that sounds like perfect. So I'll check that out.
Yeah, they're all on iPlayer, so they seem to have the rights to them all anyway, so it's pretty decent. Last night I watched Tornado, the one that was at the Glasgow Film Festival.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
About the
Jack Lowden.
Yeah, Jack Lowden one about the Japanese girl who is being pursued by guys who think she has stolen gold from them and all that. So I watched that last night. That was really good, actually. Very bleak. Not many laughs to be had in that film, but it was a good one.
Tim Roth is magnificent in that. Like, that man's swagger is like, you can just tell who. You see that scene when you've got them and they're all walking along the sort of mood or whatever, and it's just they're shot from behind, but because he's got such a distinctive gait, you're like, that's Tim Roth.
Yeah, and the fact that they held back Jack Lowden for so long, he was at the back of the group all the times, and he was only introduced after about 15 minutes. So, yeah, that was pretty decent as well. I enjoyed that. It was a good movie, actually.
Where was that on?
I think I had a download of it. It's been available to buy for a wee while. It's not actually on a streaming service yet, but you can actually get a hold of it. So I watched that. Leslie wanted to watch it because she's seen a few things with Jack Lowden in it. Like, there was a play that he was in. A Scottish play he was in about 6 months ago, so she was kind of interested to see that one. She'd been told it was pretty good as well, so it was good. So another of the older films I watched was In a Lonely Place. Gloria Graham and Humphrey Bogart. Humphrey Bogart's the writer in it, who has been having a run of bad luck. He hasn't actually written anything positive for the screen for a number of years, but he's this wisecracking author, and he is accused of a murder as well, of a woman that he knows, and she was back at his place, and then she left, and then after she left, she got killed. And it's his new neighbour, who's played by Gloria Graham, is the backup, and he falls in love with her and all this, and only lasts a couple of weeks and everything. It's just, it's a spot-on film. Totally perfect. It's really, really good. A couple of the ones from a couple of weeks ago, I don't know if I mentioned The Roses, the Benedict Cumberbatch.
Olivia Colman. That's a remake of War of the Roses, isn't it?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Which itself is an adaptation of a book called War of the
Yeah.
Roses, which I didn't know it was a book, but it's a pretty decent adaptation. It's funny and it's spiky. The way that it is very, very British. The way that they talk to each other, and that's a major part of the story because he is an architect and she is a chef, and they both meet when they're both sort of at a lower ebb. They're both not enjoying what they're doing, so they move to west coast of America and set up there. And initially, he's very successful, and she's opened a restaurant, but it's like getting like a couple of dozen people in a day, so it's not very successful at all. And that all switches about. So it's got to do with the fact that she has become far more successful than he has because he is a bit of a disaster with one of his designs. Basically, it's a naval museum and he puts sails on top of it, and then a hurricane comes through and it's showing, and you see it actually all falling down, and his reaction to it, because he's actually there, he's a restaurant across the road from it. So it's got to do with that sort of reversal of fortune kind of idea, and the fact that they are British people and everybody around them are these sort of typical Americans. You know, they go to the gun range, but they go to the gun range ironically because they don't like guns and everything, you know, that kind of thing. So, and it's really good performances from both of them because they are naturally funny people anyway, and it comes across really well. It's totally spot on. That was really rather good.
I watched an interview with her, and she said she does no prep for roles whatsoever. She literally learns her lines, turns up, does them, and fucks off. How talented is that woman that she can deliver? Apart from the Queen, she said she did do voice work for the Queen because everyone knows what the Queen sounds like, obviously. But she literally just turns up with her lines in her head and delivers like these powerhouse performances every time. Like, that feels almost unfair.
It does, talented. Yeah. To be fair, she is very good at her job, and it comes across really well in everything she does, you know. And because she originally had a breakthrough in comedy with the likes of Peep Show.
Peep Show, so good. And
then she got out of that rather than just doing comedy after comedy. She moved, I mean, because she was on like Hot Fuzz as well. Yeah. So she was kind of in that comedy vein, but she obviously broke out of that, get into more serious, dramatic, and won awards. I mean, she's fantastic. Absolutely brilliant. We were looking for something to watch last Saturday and flicking through stuff, and we came across a film called The Man from Rome. Don't know if you've heard this.
No.
Richard Armitage film where he is a priest for the Vatican, but he's a special priest. He's a priest with a certain set of skills. Basically a troubleshooter that goes in, and he gets absolved before he starts the mission. They absolve him from his sins that he's about to commit.
No way!
I know. So he is sent to Seville because there's a dispute going on between a bank in Seville who are looking to buy an old church and turn it into this massive big housing development, sort of high-end property. But the local wealthy family, the wife of the local wealthy family, wants to retain it because they have the rights to the church and how it's actually kept going. And there's a sort of intrigue about that, and people get killed. People have been killed in the church and stuff in mysterious circumstances and everything. So he goes along, and it's this sort of action priest kind of film. And it's one of these, it's a film where it's set in Spain. Most of the cast are Spanish, apart from the odd one. There's him and Paul Guilfoyle, who's an American actor.
CSI.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
yes.
He's in CSI. Yeah.
Yep. So he does a Boston accent in this because obviously all priests come from the Boston area, Irish Catholic priests. So he's a sort of high one up in the Vatican. He's got the ear of the Pope, and the Pope's played by Franco Nero. So you're like, geez, oh man, this is, you know. So it's a decent stacked cast, but it's a terrible film.
Okay. I was wondering where the catch was gonna.
It's just very cheesy, and like I say, most of the cast is Spanish, but everybody speaks English. And when they actually did the dub from English into Spanish, they didn't use the Spanish actors. They used other people to do, sort of stock voiceover people to do the Spanish version of it, which is just kind of blows my mind that they didn't actually not just even shoot their scenes twice. So they spoke in one scene in English and then the second scene in Spanish. No, didn't bother doing that. That's what I would have done. I would have saved time and money, having it like was it Dracula?
Yes,
they
shot
Spanish
the same
version
film. Yeah,
the same film at night in the same sets, saving money, saving time. Yep, it does kind of work. I also watched Jurassic World Reborn as well, which was okay. Leslie liked it a lot more than I did, but it was all right. The action in it was pretty decent. It was only just over 2 hours, so it didn't outstay its welcome, but it was kind of, right, there's a family in peril here, so there's two different storylines, but obviously the action part of it and dinosaurs on screen as well was all good, and Scarlett Johansson. And I don't want to mention him because you'll just get upset again because he's doing another film. He's doing a different film. He's not doing Blade. No. So yes, some pretty decent performances. And is it Rupert Friend? Rupert Friend. Yeah. Who looks like Dick Dastardly, and he's like a real life version of. Well, he does, I think, just a wee bit anyway, just normally. Yeah. He's done quite a few of these bad guy roles. He's a cross between sort of Dick Dastardly and Orlando Bloom. See if you had those and you merged them into one.
That's exactly right.
It would be kind of like that. And he's obviously tried to break out of this, the bad English, the baddie who's an English guy, because he's been in like Wes Anderson films and things like that as well. And he's a good actor. He's very good. But yes, this is kind of like, it's almost like moustache twirling at times, and you know how things are going to end for certain people and all that. The kind of order that people are going to disappear in and things like that. Well. So yes, the kids are going to be all right till the end of the film. That's not a surprise or a spoiler at all, because they don't kill off kids and don't kill off dogs. So there we go. But yeah, it was okay, and I can see them making another couple of films around the sort of central cast in this one, basically because it's obviously
it did well at the box office.
It's been very popular, so I think it was like maybe third or fourth in the sort of summer box office. So it's done particularly well. I think it was initially above Superman, but Superman overtook it a couple of weeks ago to quite a significant sort of chunk of money. But I think it's quite safely in like third place above everything else. So it's been really, really popular, which doesn't really, like I said, when we did our top 10, or when we discussed the sort of top 10 movies of the summer, doesn't surprise me because people want to go and see dinosaur films. So
yeah, they do.
It's all right, yeah. And last film I saw was 5 Easy Pieces, Jack Nicholson film from 1973, 1974. He is a guy who he works on these sort of smaller oil platforms in Texas, but he is a sort of a child prodigy piano player, and he's kind of rejected his past and rejected his family, who are all these sort of top musicians, and he lives with this girl who she keeps asking him, do you love me? And he keeps saying, well, what do you think? So he never actually says it, and so he gets word that his father is in a really bad way, he's dying, and he has to go back to the family home. And of course, they live in an island. You have to get a ferry across to the island, and it's this big house, and there's music everywhere and all that. So it's him trying to reconcile his own past and at the same time trying to get away from it again, just wanting to get out there, not have anything to do with his family, just do his own thing, because he hated his upbringing, and he hated the fact that he was really good at the piano. And that's what he was pushed towards all the time, and he wanted to do other stuff, hence he moved away. But it's a cracking Jack Nicholson performance in it. There's a very famous scene that you sometimes see on these wee sort of short clips. It's him sitting in a restaurant, and he wants to order an omelette, and he can only order an omelette if it's part of a sort of set meal. And he orders an omelette, and he wants toast with it, and that's all. He just wants toast, and they say, no, we can't do you toast. We don't, it's not part of the ordering system. And then he says, right, I want an omelette, hold all the stuff that goes with it. It's like potatoes and all that. So just hold all the stuff that goes with it. Give me a chicken sandwich, take out the mayo, take out the chicken, and just and he just goes this big scene. I've seen that we clip loads and loads. It's probably the most famous clip actually from the film, and it's just really, really good. So it's a great performance from him. It's a great performance from an actor called Karen Black as well, who plays this sort of Midwestern bimbo type in it. She's really convincing because she wants to be a country singer, and she's singing along. And it's like Tammy Wynette songs that are actually on the soundtrack, and she sings along to the song. She's got a really good voice and everything, but he puts her down all the time, and he doesn't want anything to do with music and all that. But yeah, cracking movie. It's one of these sort of the top tier films of the sort of the new wave. 1970s new wave. I think it's Bob Rafelson that directed it, and he did a few things like that. He worked with Nicholson on a few occasions. It's another one, so I can't remember what it is now. But yes, so it's right in that period where it's kind of bleak and there's not any. It's just people talking to each other in different situations in different places and all that, and it just works really, really well. And it's very low budget and everything as well. But yeah, cracking movie and a cracking performance. I don't know if you've not seen this, no?
No, I've not seen it. I've definitely heard of it because now that you're saying that diner scene, I'm like, no, I've definitely, as you say, it's one of these like clips of like on Watch Mojo or something like that. I've definitely seen that, but I've not seen it. But again, like I'm always intrigued by like Jack Nicholson because I feel like the 70s and sort of 80s were definitely the peak, and then from the 90s onwards, he's been phoning it in with God knows what, and so he's had a really interesting career. But I think he sort of now trades on the name that he established for himself, obviously, with these kind of pieces as opposed to the relative crap that he was churning out towards the
he did years. He did a bit of a greatest hits tour for a wee while, you know, being Jack Nicholson on screen rather than actually in the part where he's here, and really up till the Batman film. I think the Batman film changed a lot because he was just an exaggerated version of himself or his screen persona at that point, and there was mixed results after that in terms of what he was actually doing. But yes. So TV wise on Netflix, I watched your recommendation, Unknown Number. Fucking hell, man.
I really wish you had TikTok because I've seen so many videos this week that I wanted to send you of this guy who's like taped his upper lip to his nose and taped it all the way to the back of his head and keeps in impressions of the mum, and it's fucking brilliant.
It's unbelievable. I didn't
see it coming.
Whiff of suspicion. No, I had no idea until they actually just plainly announced it. I was just like, jings, because everything to do with the lead up, you would think. I did think it was an adult.
I did think it was an adult.
Basically, because kids are really bad at keeping secrets. Somebody would have told somebody else who would have told somebody, and that would go out. And obviously, there are rumours about who actually was doing it, like amongst their peer group and everything. But yeah, I had no idea. And obviously, I'm not going to spoil it here either. But Jesus, it's pretty fucking sick, man. It really is. And the final third of it, after it's been revealed and everything, and it's just crazy after that because the way people are reacting. The people, the central people around it, the way that they are reacting is just something that I can't get my head around at all. I just don't understand it, which is just, you know.
We have all been talking about it in work, and my friends Jackie and Nona, who I used to work with, our group chat's just been constant because Jackie watched it first. She told me to watch it, then we got Rona to watch it, and the three of us have just been falling down a rabbit hole, been sending each other articles, videos, everything we can find, because none of us can actually process what we've watched.
I know, just unbelievable. The last thing watched TV wise, obviously, why I watch stuff and there's a lot of repetition, because I'll just be repeating myself every week because it's new episodes of stuff, so I'm not going to bother with that. Started watching 9 Perfect Strangers on Prime.
Oh, I read that book.
Yes. I think it's only recently been adapted. Yeah. It's Nicole Kidman again. And
she's
the
wellness
drama. Yes. Yeah. So she's in the main cast. She's the main member of the cast here. I think she straddles both seasons of it. There's 2 seasons of it. I'm just watching the first one. And in the first one, they're bringing all these people together, like Melissa McCarthy, Michael Shannon, Luke Evans, and various other bods around that. And they're all brought together in this wellness retreat, which you don't know what's really going on because everyone around the Nicole Kidman character is totally devoted to her. One of them saved her life and things like this. It's just, but there's obviously something else going on here as well, because she doesn't choose just anybody. She gets hundreds of applicants to come into this place, and she only chooses a very small select number and all this. But yeah, it's really good because Nicole Kidman is fairly blank during it. She doesn't give anything away. We've only seen maybe 2-3 episodes of it, so you're still getting into the sort of the character dynamics, because they're mostly not very nice people, or they've got like real tragedies. There's 3 of the people who are not strangers. They're actually part of the same family. They'd lost a family member as well, and they're all trying to come to terms with that. The Michael Shannon character, that's just brilliant. He's this sort of gentle father type who's just trying to keep his family together or just trying to stop them from totally fragmenting all that. Really, really excellent. So I'm looking forward to seeing the rest of that, because it started off really nicely. I thought maybe at first it was just a kind of a reaction to the likes of the White Lotus and that type of thing. Rich people in trouble, their problems, which it is to a certain extent.
Yeah.
But it's different enough that can actually really enjoy it as well at the same time. So yes.
Yeah.
So that's me.
I have not been watching anything near as high caliber as you have. I will give a shout out to, I read a book called Jesus and John Wayne by Kristen Kobes-Dumez, which is about white evangelicals in America who cling on to a notion of masculinity that doesn't actually exist, because John Wayne the person and John Wayne the screen persona were obviously 2 very different things. Like in real life he was a draft dodger, all that sort of thing, whereas the notion of his like cowboy masculinity is what a lot of these white evangelicals cling on to, and it's how they see Jesus as well. So that was an interesting read, especially in light of everything that's going on in the world at the moment.
And his name was Marion Morrison.
Well, exactly. So his his all-American boy thing is a complete fallacy from start to finish. So that was a quite interesting read. And I'm also on the last book of the Yrsa Sigurda daughter, Thora Goodman's daughter books, which is really hard to say. That's like
you need a run up to that one,
yeah. It's Icelandic. She's a lawyer. Thora is a lawyer, and she gets dragged into all these sort of like different cases in and around Reykjavik. And that's been a good wee series. I've really enjoyed that, actually. And again, I'm quite sad that I'm on the last book. So that's what I've been reading. In terms of TV, I have watched, I've gone on a true, see, because I've watched That Unknown Number, my Netflix algorithm's been very skewed this week. So I watched Jerry Springer Fights Camera Action, which is a 2-part documentary on the Jerry Springer show. Now, up until watching this, I was so convinced that everyone on that program was a plant. Like, no, it turns out these were real people, but a bit like the sort of Jeremy Kyle thing, they were taken to a hotel and sort of wound up into oblivion and then sort of let loose on the show. And it was showing you like footage of the producers and the researchers who would get into verbal fights with these guests and then go, right, do that again and do it bigger when you get on the set. And maybe you should punch her, and maybe, are you going to accept that? You should go and pull her hair. And they were really winding these people up into oblivion. And of course, there was like interviews with like odious little producers, all men, who were like, and we beat Oprah that week because, we had the one-armed transgender, like person who loved to fuck sharks. Basically, it was just like whatever was the most obscure thing they could find. And it was about basically how Jerry Springer himself had started off as a serious news anchor in the States. He obviously was the mayor of, I think, was it Cincinnati or something like that. And then his legacy essentially has been this mess of a talk show. So it was quite interesting. And you could see a lot of people who'd worked on the show had a lot of regret because it was obviously very exploitative as well. There was actually a double murder as a result of the show as well. Somebody who'd brought on like their wife and their mistress and then went on to kill them both. Like, it was really, again, it made me think of that whole Jeremy Kyle thing that we had in the UK recently, where the guy obviously I think he'd killed himself, and it was because they'd been wound up. So I watched that and it did make me feel a bit sort of icky afterwards, because it was really not nice. I also watched Catching the Tinder Predator on Amazon Prime. That's the Scottish case of the guy who'd been fleecing money out of women initially, and then it sort of escalated into actually sort of sexually assaulting them and recording it and threatening to release the tapes or the video or whatever you want to call it if they didn't give him any more money. So that was, I remember watching the BBC Panorama on that, and it just sort of caught my eye on Prime while I was watching it as well. But basically it happened in Glasgow. He was given bail and then went down to London and did the exact same thing. So it was a bit scary as well, because it does make you think, like, you know, were all sensible girls with, you know, careers. Some of them were like in their, like, say, like early to mid 30s, so they weren't young girls. They were sort of women who'd established themselves with careers and homes and all the rest of it, and yet he was still able to manipulate them. So that was quite horrible as well. I also watched Fit for TV, again, it's my Netflix algorithm, which was about The Biggest Loser in the USA, which was a TV show that basically encouraged people to lose weight. But it turned out that they were, like, obviously the first series, it was like, wow, somebody's lost 6 pounds, that's great. And then by the end of, like, whatever the last series was, they wanted you to be losing like 15 pounds a week. So what they were doing was purposely denying food, giving people drugs, injecting them with caffeine, and like putting them in a calorie deficit that could have killed them. Basically, this one woman talked about being hospitalized and being unable to feel her legs, because it was all a sham. It was purely for TV, but they were, again, exploiting people who were in a desperate situation where, you know, they wanted to lose weight. So I've just watched a lot of crap like that this week. I also rewatched the Verdict. Sorry,
was the Fit for TV thing, was that the one where it started with the guy who had lost loads? He'd lost like a record amount of weight, and then it actually showed him on screen, and he was really fat again. Yeah, I did. I watched that a couple of weeks ago. Yeah,
because essentially the stuff that they were doing to them was so dangerous that there was no way you would keep that weight off, like in the real world when you went back out. And then it was really horrible because at one point they were like making them do challenges where they had to like gorge on a buffet and stuff like that as well. And it was you do wonder how television got to that state in the sort of mid 2000s in particular, where it was just like, let's all point and laugh at these people who are less fortunate for whatever reason, because they're, you know, mentally distressed or they're overweight or whatever. But that definitely was like the way TV was going for a good long, I'm not saying it's got any better, but that definitely was the route it was taking for a long period of time. But yeah, exactly, the guy that you see interviewed in it obviously he's put all the weight back on.
It did sound familiar. I think I'd watched something. I couldn't remember if it was that program or not, but it must have been the Netflix one. Yeah, and it's like a horror story in a lot of ways, which leads on to Verdict.
Yes, I rewatched the Verdict for Vampire Videos, and thankfully Hugh and Dan both really, really liked it. They said
good stuff.
It was very unusual for them to find something that was different, and obviously because they specialise in vampire films, so I felt quite chuffed that I'd introduced them to that, because I think it is a really, really good film. The big thing that I've watched this week, I'm not actually allowed to tell you what it is because I signed an NDA. So I will talk about it once that's over with. There was a lot of documents and a lot of initials and a lot of signatures, and quite frankly, I feel like I may have signed my soul away to the big mouse, but it needs must at this particular moment in time.
Brilliant.
So that's everything from me. As I say, I've not been watching a lot because with these 2 films to watch, I truly gave into the algorithm this week. I just thought, do you know what? I like that unknown number. What else have you got for me? And that was it.
Yeah, there's certain things that you just let yourself go with. And like you say, if you just let yourself go with the algorithm, or you just watch episode after episode of the likes of Cheers just because it's something nice in the background and you don't really need to bother about it. Yeah, it's comfort watching, isn't it? That's what it's all about. So yeah.
Oh, I've been doing that with Everybody Loves Raymond this week because they're running like that from the start again on Comedy Central, and that has like nostalgia for me as well. So every time it's been on, even this morning I was like, you need to get up, you need to wash your hair, you need to prep. And I sat down and I flicked on Comedy Central and there was Everybody Loves Raymond. And I was like, no, don't do this to yourself. Get up, move.
Before you know it, you're touching your chin before you put something into your mouth. Yeah. That's just brilliant. I love that program.
Me too. And it just, Marie physically reminds me so much of my gran, because my gran always had big long nails, the blonde hair all done, and always like a wee blousey thing. And like, you know, like she just reminds me so much of her physically. So whenever I see her sort of shuffling on screen, I'm like, oh, that's Betty. That's so funny. Oh, that's good. I'm glad we did that one. I'm never watching Bad Boys again. But
no, me neither.
Now I can tick it off a bucket list and say I've done it.
Yeah. I did see an interesting thing about the Die Hard film, which didn't really kind of fit in when we were talking about it in the pod, but they had real problems bringing this film together because of the fact that this was the third film in a franchise, and they hadn't written specific stories for this. There was one done by Shane Black, which was rejected, which was John McClane and his wife on honeymoon on a boat, and then that was canned because Under Siege went into production. Yeah. Or it must have been Under Siege. I was Under Siege because that was in a boat, and then that film, after revisions and changes, got turned into Speed 2. And there's a whole history. There's a whole history of, like, there's various films that various script changes they went through, and they've turned up in other types of films. But there is a very interesting bit here on IMDb about the fact that one of the biggest problems they faced, because by the time they were doing the third Die Hard film, there was so many other films being made that were in the Die Hard mold, and they've actually got a list of some of the films here, and I'll read some of them because there's bloody hundreds. There was over 30 Die Hard films in development, Die Hard type films in development. So we had Gale Force and Maelstrom, which was Die Hard and Hurricanes.
Jesus.
They had Sandblast, Die Hard and Sandstorm, No Safe Haven, Die Hard and Martha's Vineyard. Trackdown, Die Hard in the English Channel Tunnel.
Oh my God.
Suspension, Die Hard in the George Washington Bridge. Platform and The Rig, Die Hard in an Oil Rig, which is a film I actually want to see because there's a book. What was it? I can't even remember the name of it. It's a Christopher Brookmeyer book where it's actually Die Hard on an oil rig, and they make it into a film starring Bruce Willis in the book, which is quite good. Platform, The Rig, Die Hard on oil rigs. High Roller, Die Hard in a giant Las Vegas casino. In Contempt, Die Hard in a courthouse. He Who Dares, Die Hard in the British Embassy in the United States. L4, Die Hard in the Centre for Disease Control.
What the fuck?
Huddled Masses, which is where is it? Die Hard. Where is it? Huddled Masses. Die Hard in the Statue of Liberty. State of the Union, Die Hard in the Capitol Building. Return to Sender, Die Hard in a post office. Vertical Run, Die Hard in an office building, which is kind of Die Hard.
Yeah, that literally is Die Hard. Oh
The Dam, Die Hard at Hoover Dam, Off the Grid.
Yep.
Die Hard at a Canadian dam. Pandora, Die Hard in a giant military defence plant. Meltdown, Die Hard in a nuclear power plant. Ground Zero, Die Hard in a missile silo. Blast Off, Die Hard in NASA Mission Control. Troubleshooter, Die Hard in a cruise ship, which was the original one. Fast Track, Die Hard in a bullet train.
Oh, God.
Oh, my goodness. The Number 4, Die Hard in a bus. The French Teacher, Die Hard in Yosemite National Park. Rock Bottom, Die Hard in a cave. And Apogee, Die Hard in the space shuttle.
I mean,
I'm not surprised. None of these were made.
Yeah, well, that I'm also not surprised that. I'm not surprised that these are all pitched, because that's what happens, isn't it? One film becomes successful and everybody has their own version. Die Hard in a post office just absolutely threw me, though. That is absolutely stunning. I mean, do you think so? It's one of these things where, like, there'll be loads of writers and stuff, and they've just gone, "Oh, well, Die Hard's done really well. Where can we say that that's slightly different?" And then they've just all come up, as you say. I mean, that there's at least 30 or whatever different versions of that. I mean, that is absolutely mad.
I know, it's crazy, but that happens all the time, and you get positions where two of them come out roughly about the same time. You have disaster movies that happen, and neither one of them blinks and they come out within a couple of months of each other, that kind of thing. And that's the ones that actually get through. But these obviously are ones that didn't get through at all. I would have liked the one in the Centre for Disease Control. I thought that would have been a good one.
Yeah. What the fuck is that? I mean, it's I suppose it's a bit like, what do you call it? Immaculate and The First Omen. They're basically the same story. And that's obviously just like a trend that was going through horror at any given time. So, of course, action films and disaster films and all that go through these kind of same cycles as well. So it makes sense. It's funny, obviously, when you read them out like that in a list, even just like the basic ones of like, oh, Die Hard in a storm, Die Hard in sand. It's just like so bad.
Yeah, and when you actually look at some films that were made and you don't think about it, they are just carbon. They take major elements of a policeman in peril or somebody in peril that has to do something. It's very, very samey, and you don't think about it. It's only when somebody points out, oh, that's basically Die Hard in a car, that kind of idea. So yeah, but yes, I think a lot of it's got to do with studios asking for these things. Rather, writers will do what they're told. If someone says to them, here's your idea, give me
Die Hard in the post office.
Yeah, yeah. And begin, come back in 6 weeks, tell us what you've got, that kind of idea, yeah. So, yeah.
Oh, that is absolutely. I suppose it's a bit like the murder mysteries. Like, everyone's obviously very excited about the new Knives Out, for example, but that's just like Poirot or whatever. You gather everyone in the room at the end and you reveal who it is, and it's exactly what we talked about in Thursday Murder Club as well. Like, they are all different shades of the same thing, essentially. But that's why they're comforting for some people, because there's a familiarity there that you know what you're getting when you go in for it. Yeah,
and with certain types of products, there's an inbuilt audience for them, because TV schedules are littered with murder mysteries, and a lot of cozy murder mysteries fill up sort of the BBC and the UN drama and all this sort of stuff, and it's all through that. Father Brown mysteries, all these sort of things are very sort of low budget, but they have an audience and they just churn them out. And these kind of things you don't particularly need to watch with any sort of concentration about them, because you've kind of got an idea. It's more about the setting and the characters involved, the recurring characters, rather than just the same ideas like Columbo and all that as well. But the action things are the same, because you've got TV shows that are doing pretty much the same thing. There's a protagonist, something happens, usually involving his wife dying, and then he has to go out and avenge, that kind of thing. So that's built in. So when you see that, and when that comes on the big screen, there's an audience saying, oh, that big budget looks quite good, we're going to see that. So it's never going to win any awards, but it's going to make money.
And that's the thing. Like, I'm not denigrating, because I'm the first person that will go and see a cozy murder mystery or something like that, or even like the first 3 Die Hards. But it's just interesting that there is that sort of inbuilt audience there, and as you say, it's never going to challenge anyone for like an Oscar or whatever. But there is something like vaguely comforting. And I know on this podcast we were always crying out for original content, but there is something vaguely comforting about what you're getting yourself in for. That John's vest is going to be dirty and his feet are going to be bloody by the end, but the world will have been put back to rights, and there's something quite reassuring about that, I guess. And
oh yeah, absolutely. And it showed in the box office for this film, because Die Hard was the biggest film in 1995. Not so much in the States.
Wow.
It was like number 8 in the States, but worldwide, it was one of these ones that the early films that did far better business outside of America than it did in. And it was the worldwide number 1 film in 1995, which is, that's saying something.
Really is, though.
I think it was Batman Forever in the States was the biggest film, which is saying something as well. So.
Oh dear, I can't talk actually, because there's not a Batman film that I won't watch, and I include Batman Forever and Batman and Robin in those films as well. I think because they were like the first grown-up films I got to see at the cinema. Like, I went with my uncles, so there's a nostalgia attached to that I will not have proper serious film critics tell me that they're bad.
Was that a real uncle, or was that a uncle?
Oh no, definitely a real uncle. I've got about 25 of those, so yeah, definitely a real uncle.
Good stuff. Yeah.
But yeah, they were like my first big girl films, as it were. So Val Kilmer was my first crush for that very reason, because that was the
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, definitely. Yes.
So
yeah. You tend to be more forgiving for the first films in there. Yeah.
It was like, even like when we revisited, I was on that at the movies in the 90s, and we were revisiting Mrs. Doubtfire. And we were sort of talking about it through the lens of like, would you have this film made now? And the answer is probably no. But at the same time, it's never done in a derogatory way. It's a man trying to find access to his children, and this is the only way he can think of doing it. It's never done to set up the transgender community. It's not done to make fun of that at all. It's a different story. However, it probably wouldn't get made.
It wouldn't get past development stage now because of the criticism of it. Not even they wouldn't even look at the story. They would just look at the fact that it's a man wearing women's clothing in order to progress. So therefore, who's going to be offended by this answer? Lots of people. So not good.
So, but it's a childhood classic. So again, I won't hear anything bad against it.
Yep.